Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the new Poor Man's Gwent seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which at the start of the game, all of our gold cards get transformed into random bronzes, turning this into a battle of the bronzes. And today we have a really fun deck to use in this event, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Monsters Arachas Swarm deck that focuses on playing lots of organic cards for both control and swarming our side of the board. So we'll damage and destroy our opponent's units with many of these organic cards, and then when we're not destroying our opponent's cards, we'll spawn in more stuff with things like Spontaneous Evolution targeting insectoids. Griffin does give us some tempo. Should be easy to get a 1-power drone on our side of the board, and that gives us a target to destroy with the Griffin. So if we do need some tempo, we can still make that happen. Kikimore Stalker is one of our key engines in this deck. You may not necessarily need that many engines because you have so much control. You can just shut down whatever your opponent is doing, and then in the process, you get the drones, you boost the drones, but this gives us another way to more easily remove more of our opponent's cards. Epidemic, very interestingly, because everyone is playing only bronze cards, that means every card is going to be 4, 5, 6 provisions, and therefore Epidemic is pretty likely to have a target to outright remove. Just bear in mind, if you do not have an opponent's unit at 4 provisions to target, then you actually will be forced to destroy one of your own 4 provision cost cards. So be careful when and where you use this. It is a very high risk, high reward card, but if your opponent has a very highly boosted 4 provision card, then this is amazing. And it is still an organic card, so you're also going to spawn in a drone in the process. Hideous Feast, more damage, a little bit of boosting as well. Arachas Next, swarm the board with more drones. Spores, another way to punish our opponents for going tall. A little bit less risky, though, compared to the Epidemic. Natural Selection, more control and spawning. Fiend is one of our other high-tempo cards, point slams, if you need it. Endrega Warrior can give you more drones if you need to, although this is mostly just a filler card. Hatchling, more swarm. Warrior, also an engine, basically consume the 1-power drones and replace them with a 3-point Kikimore Warrior, and that way you're getting 2 additional points every turn. And Nightwraith, also mostly a filler card, although it does give us some swarm and gives us a unit that our opponents don't really want to do anything to, because otherwise it'll spawn even more rats. And then at the very end of the round, ideally in round 3, that's when you break out the Bone Talisman, and that's where having all those drones on the board gives you amazing value. And that's really all there is to it. Basically, spam a bunch of organic cards, destroy most, if not all, of your opponent's units, spawn drones on your side of the board in the process, and finish off by boosting those drones. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against monsters here. And we'll go first. Okay, and it's a little tough for us to go on blue coin because we are so control-centric here. So we don't have great turn 1 plays unless we go Griffin with maybe a lead ability charge that this is a safe play. The problem there is they could turn around and use a Predatory Dive on us. I guess we could throw out an extra lead ability charge just to play it safe, but that feels not so great. Endrega Warrior, I mean, we could drop it. Not that it's going to do much if it's just consuming a whole lot of nothing. So I think we're... I guess we can Arachas Nest. All right, let's dump you. Could go Kikimore Warrior. Yeah, you know what? We can make that work. We can make that work. Kikimore Warrior could even be our primary engine here. If this survives, and if it does get destroyed, then alright, so be it. We can focus more on control after this. Not going to boost it in case they do have a Predatory Dive, although, granted, that means things like Hideous Feast could work. Okay, it's Nagelfair's crew. We'll damage it with the Frost. But, let's see. It's not quite enough to Hideous Feast you. It is enough to use Natural Selection, though. So maybe we do this. That'll destroy, get rid of one of their engines, and then we do this. You will get hit by the Frost, which is unfortunate. I think we will boost you now, because otherwise we run the risk of this getting destroyed and shutting off our engine. And if you were to Predatory Dive, then obviously you're just going to get that 1-point Kikimore Warrior, and that's no big deal. Okay, it's more Frost. Okay. It does make control rather difficult. So we could consume that warrior to create another warrior and gain 2 points in the process. We could Griffin here. Or we could Arachas Nest and just spawn in some stuff. Maybe in this other... Well, debatable is whether we'd want it to be in that row. Let's go Nest. Okay, they all end up in this row. That way we have plenty of targets for the warrior and or the Griffin on our next turn if we have to go that route. Okay, larva. Ooh. Ooh. This looks like a very nice Arachas Venom opportunity to remove both of those. So let's do that. Then, let's get rid of one of you. Okay, Aristocrat. I was going to say that we had Dominance. However, that Frost has actually made that no longer the case. That could change. If we were to Predatory Dive, we could just outright remove you. Sacrifice 1 point drone and regain 1 in the process, because this is an organic. Or we drop Griffin. That definitely gets us to the point where we have a bigger unit. Or we go Hideous Feast, bump you down to 2, and bump up one of our other cards here. Maybe we go the Hideous Feast route. Do want to make sure we get somebody a little bit bigger. Get rid of one of the little drones. We might look to pass soon, because we have a pretty large lead here. Okay, it's another Aristocrat. And after we take damage from Frost, they will just barely still have Dominance. Still not a huge factor, this Order ability. If they use Leader ability as well, they might just barely be able to catch us in 1 turn. It's borderline. But we could Arachas Venom, remove, and damage. And that surely would seal this round, give us the win. So I don't really think there's anything they could do at this point to catch us. But they'll try. Wild Hunt... they, once again, just barely have Dominance. Surprised they moved that, though. Maybe they're clicking the order just for the sake of clicking the order. But we do still have engines going with the Warrior if we wanted to keep pushing here. But we need to commit some of our finishers that we'd like to use. Or use a Predatory Dive that doesn't really make much sense at this point. Since this round is going long, that means we'll have shorter round 2 and or round 3, which gives us good tempo with Griffin. So I kind of want to save it. I feel like it would be awfully difficult still for them to catch us now. So I am going to pass here. Maybe they have a way to do it. Maybe double leader ability, but honestly, if that's what it takes for them to take this win in round 1, then maybe we'll accept that. They're going for, okay. Go for the resilience instead. So they won't catch us, unless they're going multiple cards down. They're just going for the carryover. I think that's still a mistake, though, because we could dry pass here, be on 10 cards in round 3, and even if they already have a unit on the board, even if they dry pass, they're still at 9 cards, so we have 1 card advantage in that case. So I think that's probably what we do here. I mean, we could Predatory Dive and remove that, but I think... do we want to go that route? I think we probably dry pass. And I do like what we've picked up here. Maybe Hideous Feast could be a little bit better. Epidemic, yeah, that has potential. Okay, I think we dry pass here. We have some high tempo. I mean, we could do things like Fiend and Griffin just to put some pressure on them, since they would need to put up a lot of points very quickly to catch us, and then we save more of our organic and swarm strategies for round 3 with stuff like Natural Selection and Bone Talisman and Leader ability charges. Maybe that's still worth doing, because since we won round 1, they have to keep on playing. So I think we can still maintain 1 card advantage in round 3. That notably is not enough, because this Frost will not trigger in time for them to catch us. So they need to play at least 1 more card. That means 2 card advantage for round 3. I think we settle for that then. That's pretty hard to beat. They'll go Navigator. I mean, just about anything will do. So they needed 1 more turn of this Frost triggering for them to take the lead, but they go 2 cards down to win round 2. And we get some more tempo with another Fiend, which is still not bad, but since we're trying to go a little more the swarm route here with a couple of Bone Talismans, I think we'd like to go wider. And I'm not sure they're going to go that wide. So Lacerate, although it is an organic card, it has some potential. Maybe double Epidemic is a little bit risky in case they don't have a lot of 4 provision cost cards. This is more what I'm looking for, because this helps us go a lot wider. Okay, so I feel like this is more balanced. Let's go with this. Okay, well done, Hound. So we do still have a Predatory Dive. We might just use it now in case they have a small card later. This is an engine, and they've done a decent job of maintaining dominance. Yeah, if we played one of you two, we could probably still deny that, but a couple leader ability charges, they might have something to say about that, so I think we keep it simple. Just get rid of it. It's another one. Okay, and it is 4 power. It is also 4 provisions, which means we could either use Epidemic or Natural Selection on it. Both of these are organics. It's functionally more or less the same. Just which one do we think has more potential? Epidemic could remove things much bigger than 4 power, so maybe we get a little bit greedy and do this. And basically, we're just continuing to make this round shorter and shorter by removing every unit that they play and getting one little drone on the board every time we do that, which is a big deal because we have 2-card advantage, so it's going to take a lot for them to put up points quickly enough in such a short round. They're going to have to use leader ability on a drone to set up Foglet. Okay, now that is not 4 provisions, so we cannot remove you with Epidemic. So this is probably going to survive. That's going to be the main thing they're building around in this round, I suppose. But they're only going to have 4 turns to power it up. So we could start going wide. I mean, we'd like to get a Fiend down relatively early so we don't get this weakened, although playing this in the range... actually, no, we can play it melee row. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's do that. Thought we were going to have to play in the range row for a second. I was like, well, it's going to damage us by 2 in the process, so I'm not sure that's even worth doing. It's another Foglet. So hopefully they... And naturally they'll move this, of course. But hopefully they do have a 4 provision cost unit. Otherwise, this is going to hurt. They did row stack here, which means Lacerate, slightly more value. But, oh man, Predatory Dive right about now would have been awesome if we had chosen to save that. Could go Griffin here. And that might even be what we want to do. To deny them dominance for at least slightly longer. Okay, it's Red Riders. Are they going to put Frost in this row as well? They might. Didn't really have a choice where this Griffin was going to go. But yeah, it does facilitate stacking double row effects for them. So we are going to need to start spawning in our units soon. But I'm thinking we probably finish with Bone Talisman, which means we want to obviously use Spontaneous Evolution before we do that. We can't use Epidemic, so it's either this turn is settle for lacerating 2 units, which is not great, or we do start spawning stuff in with Spontaneous Evolution. I guess we do spawn stuff in with Spontaneous Evolution. Okay, you're a 5 provision card, right? So unfortunately still no targets for Epidemic, but at least you keep on row stacking here, so Lacerate is slightly better, so our patience pays off a bit in that sense. And hopefully their last card is 4 provisions. If not, then this is obviously a brick. It is not. Not 4 provisions. Okay, so now they do have a pretty large lead for what it's worth, but we still have a bunch of lead ability charges. Yeah, we should Epidemic here, which actually requires that we destroy our own Fiend, so tell you what, no, we're not going to use this at all. In that case, it does absolutely backfire. So that does stink. We're going to have to dump it all together, I think. So we took a risk on it. We had the choice of using either that, or I forget which other control option we had. Maybe it was Natural Selection. And apparently, Natural Selection, we should have saved that instead. But now we just load up on as many of these guys as we can get. And we Bone Talisman. And once we get our second one in here, we should be fine. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And we'll go first. Okay, so they're Imprisonment, which suggests they're going to be a control deck, and we aren't really that engine-oriented. We're more a control deck of ourselves. We're kind of also a control deck, so hopefully that means this matchup will be decent for us. I am a little concerned about the Warrior, because that is probably the most engine-like card we have here, although we don't have a lot of units, so we need to be a little bit careful there. We dump this Warrior perhaps as well, and Nightwraith, I mean, it does get some decent value on deploy. So it's not terrible, we might even play that turn 1, otherwise Fiend could be an option here, although I kind of want to see what they're trying to do first. Is this a dedicated control deck? Are they going to have poison? Because if so, this is a tall enough card that we'd rather not see that get destroyed. So let's start with this. It's a little hard sometimes on blue coin with this deck because we are using a lot of control cards. Obviously, we don't have anything to target with those control cards just yet. And here is the lock we expected to see. So as I was saying, we are going to have a whole lot of drones and not a lot of additional units beyond that. So not too concerned about that lock. We do now have a unit we can target for stuff if we wanted to. Otherwise, we can go Arachas Nest just to go wide. Kind of would like to save Arachas Nest plus Bone Talisman for round 3 if possible, though, because that could give us a lot of nice long-term value, long round value. So might go Natural Selection here. Obviously, you aren't an engine, so you aren't really doing anything long-term. So we could Fiend here. All right, we'll go for it. It's a pretty big point slam, so I'm a little hesitant against a control deck, because I'm not sure if they're going to have tall removal. Obviously, there's less of it when we're talking just bronzes, but it's possible they could have multiple poisons. Okay, Blightmaker. Solid value. Oh, yeah, there you go. It is, in fact, some poison, and it is actually, I think, impossible for us to get a unit in between these two cards right now, because all we have remaining are specials that are going to spawn in drones on the rightmost side of either row. So that's what I meant. That was the case for not playing Fiend, at least as early as we did, unless we were to Lacerate ourselves, which honestly is the best move here. Actually the best move. Assuming they don't have additional poisons in hand, or assuming they only have one additional poison available to them. Okay. Not too concerned about that spying status because it's not like they're about to use a coup or anything like that. You are an Assimilate engine, though, so we would like to find a way to shut you down. So I think what we do is we go Hideous Feast, drop you down to a 2, boost somebody else up on our side, probably a smaller unit, and in the process, even if you get boosted by 1 from Assimilate on your next turn, we can still use an Arachas Venom on you. If you get boosted by more than that, then we could be in trouble, but that's at least the theory. Okay, it's Devil's Puffball. There is some poison, but not on great cards. The worst comes to worst, they remove a 4, we'll live with that. We could Arachas Venom here, destroy you. You are technically an engine, although it doesn't seem like they're doing too much Assimilate. It would hit you, you'll just barely survive on 1 power. We could wait to see if something else bigger ends up over here on their next turn, and then we get slightly better value. Could be Hideous Feast instead. Hideous Feast we can use on anyone, though, whereas Arachas Venom, it's a little bit harder to get that set up properly. So we'll go with that, and maybe we'll use this on you. Again, trying not to have 2 big units right next to each other. That's how they were, or technically we had a little unit in between these two, which is how they got value out of their bomb. But we could see red hazes, or other things like that. There's another puffball. Okay, well. Alright, you had 2 of them. You had a lot of poison, for what it's worth, but you've already played 2 of those, so we know you don't have another. We could do natural selection on you, so you're just 1 point, which means this spawns in a lot of stuff. Not really planning to use Bone Talisman in round 1, because that's probably our best long round finisher, and we'd like to save that, but this gives us a little bit of flexibility, and I think in general, going wide is going to be good to circumvent their tall removal, which is what they are trying to do with all that poison. So we were wondering at the beginning if that was going to be a thing, and it absolutely does seem as though that's the case. They're going to use this probably to get another one of those cow carcasses here. Yep. It's actually double removal, yeah. That's 12-point play. 12-point play right there. We do not have a way to remove you this time, nor would we really want to lacerate our row that has a bazillion drones in it. So this does its thing at the end of our turn. We lose 13 points, including the carcass itself. That means we're on 12, which means they would have to get 9 points in 1 turn, which with our other poisoned units is possible if they played a Fangs the Empire. Still not enough, but plus a leader building, maybe. I think we still pass here. Worst comes to worst, we'll lose with them having committed 1 more card. I'm not certain if they can actually catch us here. It's another Blightmaker. How many Blightmakers have they played? What? A bazillion. Okay, well, they have a ridiculous amount of poison, or at least had a ridiculous amount of poison. We've not seen any Fangs of the Empire, but given all the other poison that we've seen, I would not rule that out. So the good thing is, we played a lot of our taller cards, like a Fiend, in the previous round. So we've saved most of our wide stuff with Natural Selection, Arachas Nest, Spontaneous Evolutions, and Bone Talisman, so that's going to make it really hard for them to get good value on that tall removal. We do need to play something in this round, assuming that they drive past. They did play one more card than us. I mean, they're Nilfgaard, so I don't exactly have the highest expectations of them being courteous and drive passing here. I kind of expect them to try to 2-0 us, and they will. It's pretty disrespectful. It's extremely disrespectful, I would say, but, you know, it's what Gwent has come to these days. We can remove you with Natural Selection. You've already done your thing, which is give additional charges to their siege engines, which does give them some carryover potential. I do not like that. Not thinking we want to play the Fiend early, because that is one of the things that caused us issues in the previous round. It is obviously still high-tempo play. We don't necessarily need a lot of tempo just yet, though. And we have 2 Spontaneous Evolutions. Even if we Arachas Nest here, we should still have enough wide potential in round 3, and this is enough for us to out-tempo them in this round if they are about to pass. So let's save this in case they play some actual engines. Oh, no. Alright, well, when they play some siege engines, they're going to have a lot of charges, which is why I'm trying to save some of our control. I mean, this is probably not going to be enough to outright remove whatever it is that they're trying to play. I mean, if we remove you altogether, then they can't teleportation, of course, but tempo-wise, that was, of course, a bad play for them, but we're still forced to play here because they won round 1. Don't want to have to use a Spontaneous Evolution, but we might kind of have to, otherwise. Hideous Feast, if they do teleportation, they're obviously going to reset that damage that we just dealt to them, but we did get an extra drone, we did get some boosts here, so even if they are going to do that, then we still, tempo-wise in round 2, benefit. Okay. So yeah, they mostly did that for the carryover. We will have card advantage and last say, so questionable, but there's some serious potential with what they were doing, replaying that Combat Engineer over and over. Okay, so I love Veil on the Kikimore Stalker. That could be huge for us. Epidemic could be a way to completely remove a 4 provision cost card. This is 4 provisions, and if our opponent does not have a 4 provision cost card, we actually will be forced to remove this. Or this, although that is a way to actually trigger the Death Wish if we really want to. So I think we're still okay with taking that risk. And Stalker, when they use their bombs, can this survive? If we can use Spontaneous Evolution on it, then it becomes amazing. I think we'll take those risks, though. So yeah, we do have good wide support here. So I think we begin probably with the Nightwraith. If it does get answered, obviously it's not a huge deal. We'll trigger the Death Wish, that's fine. Want to get you down early, but I'm not entirely sure exactly when the right time to do it is. Okay, Mage Torturer. It might seem like it's an engine because it has Assimilate, but as we've established, they played one earlier, it is not really much of a threat. The bigger threat is all the poison and the siege engines they were setting up with the Combat Engineer they're replaying in round 2. A leader ability for them would give them enough damage, though, to destroy a Stalker, which does sting. Needed to survive 1 turn so we can get a Spontaneous Evolution on it. Then it's out of removal range for damage, and because it has the Veil, we're not concerned about the statuses either. Maybe we do the 1 leader ability charge here, and we'll go with a Spontaneous Evolution. We, of course, would like to have already had Stalker on the board when we did that, but now we have more drones that the Stalker can consume. Probably have to use some leader ability charges to give it the extra charges, though. Okay, I love them using a leader ability charge here. If they use the 2nd leader ability charge, that'd be amazing, because then suddenly this is much safer. Okay, they're going to transfer it over onto the Nightwraith. Now that's locked. That's another way that, I mean, they might have another one of those. But, I mean, I guess, again, the Veil would protect us from that. But, okay, now at least they can't use 6 damage worth of leader ability in 1 turn, so Stalker's a little bit safer here. We get you down. We definitely need to consume at least 1 drone. Do we need to do more than that, or is that enough? I think we do it. We consume here. I'm likely going to use Spontaneous Evolution on you, so I want to give us a little more room in the range row here. I'm going to go just a little bit more here. I'm going to go 6 power. I feel like that, at that point, is pretty hard for them to remove. Also, this is 4 provisions, isn't it? Yeah, okay, so that's, worst comes to worst, our Epidemic target. Okay, I hate that. I was wondering if they'd have Purification, because that would be, Veil would be such a hard counter for their strategy. So, alright, as it turns out, Kikimore Stalker, not going to be the engine, not going to be the workaround that we were hoping it would be. So we're just going spawn as many units as possible, and then Bone Talisman, and just outscore them that way, and not go particularly tall. In fact, we might just use Epidemic here, remove the card in the melee row, and that way we have a bit of a safer Fiend. We delayed this deliberately, because we were concerned about them doing poisony stuff. But we are going to have to do that relatively soon, otherwise we risk this just getting way less value. So let's do that. Okay, Fangs the Empire. Just waiting for that to come down. I mean, at this point, again, we're deliberately not giving them a lot of high base power cards to target. So they've at least committed one more poison card. I mean, I suspect they still have more poison, at least a little bit. They might only have one left, in which case they'd have to target the Stalker. Although I'm suspicious of Rot Tosser in particular, which could give them a lot of both row flooding, preventing us from spawning in the stuff that we want, and poison as well. They might even teleportation on this. I think we will Fiend here, and we'll live with the consequences if that gets answered. Yes, it does get weakened by 1 because they have that Fangs of the Empire, but at this point we were running out of time anyway. Hopefully they no longer have much else to answer this. Okay, that's what I was waiting for. Unfortunately, we actually don't quite have enough damage for it, though. We really needed this Stalker, because I knew this was coming, and I was saving the natural selection for that purpose, but we needed the Stalker to give us slightly more damage to take it out. So, alright, but this is what's going to happen. They're going to use this. They have 3 charges, I believe, because although it says 1 here, they got a couple more from Double Combat Engineer. So that means they're going to get 3 Cow Carcasses. They're going to use that to not only poison our biggest cards, but also flood our side of the board and make it harder for us to get things like Spontaneous Evolution to work well. And so I think that means we might Spontaneous Evolution now, although that does mean we're giving them a bigger card to target with the Cow Carcasses from Rot Tosser. Unless, hold on. What if we do this? What if we do this? And just outright prevent them from playing any Cow Carcasses in the melee row. So now they're going to have to, if they want to use this, put their Cow Carcasses in the range row where they could put it here, and that's not bad, but they don't even have space to use all 3 of them. Then we'll go natural selection. Our next turn we'll finish with Bone Talisman. All right, there's Cow Carcass number 1. They tried to play it in the melee row. You saw it there for a second. They cannot. So we saw it coming. That's the place where we expected them to put at least the initial one. They're going to put this one here so they can get rid of that drone. They're already removing you. They can't use this last one unless they... Ooh. Hey, that was a misplay on their part. Because they should have removed first. They could have put 2 Cow Carcasses, 1 on either side of this Fiend, unless this last card is another Fangs of the Empire or Teleportation to remove you. If it is Teleportation, then that means we should remove you so that you can't replay it, and then you won't have enough poison to remove this Fiend. So I think we do that. These, for what it's worth, did end up getting a little more value once they used the Cow Carcasses. So those are not from their starting deck, but these will go off. So we don't have as many units, don't have as much power now. This is a big finisher. Yeah, it's another Fangs of the Empire directly from hand. Okay, so I think we still have this. Pretty sure we still have this, because of how many units we have on the board here. Because going wide is a good workaround for tall removal like poison. So there's a look at a Monsters Arachas Swarm deck for the new Poor Man's Gwent seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.